Welcome back to a series we're calling Leading Your Nonprofit with Confidence. And this is the fourth episode in the 12 episode series. So if you want to, see or listen to the other three, go to culturecares.com/podcast and you can find the three previous ones. But today I want to tell you a story about when I was talking with a nonprofit leader recently. Let's call him Joe. He shared something I hear more often than you think. His team felt like everyone needed to be involved in every decision. And because of that, their progress was slow. And so he was frustrated. And at the same time, the team was questioning Joe's authority. This was the bigger issue. He had come into this organization about 6 months ago, and the established team or the staff team, the program team that he was leading was had some problems with the prior leader. And now Joe comes in and they're still treating him with resistance to, potential improvements to their processes, and his just authority is just constantly getting questioned. And the team also felt like he shouldn't be making decisions or recommendations about their work because he hadn't personally done their jobs before. So now you have this tension. Decisions aren't moving. Leadership authority is being questioned. And then there are also side conversations happening outside the room. So there's the meeting that happens after the meeting. And the team is talking about how they want psychological safety, while they themselves are unintentionally undermining that safety by creating confusion and misalignment. This is the moment where many leaders tend to think, maybe I'm the problem. Welcome to Nonprofit CEO Spark, the podcast for bold leaders ready to navigate growth and change with energy and confidence. I'm Marcia Beckner, nonprofit founder, former executive director, and culture strategist with nearly 20 years in the social impact world. Each week, I help nonprofit leaders stop spinning out, set boundaries, and design inclusive cultures where all staff can thrive. If you're ready to reignite your leadership without sacrificing your well-being, hit subscribe and let's spark your next chapter together. What's really going on here is this. This isn't just about Joe's capability as a leader. This is about unclear decision rights and inconsistent leadership boundaries. So when teams don't know who decides, who contributes, and when a decision is final, they default to consensus. And consensus feels safe, but it actually creates slower execution, more frustration, and less trust over time. And when a leader feels the need to keep explaining or defending their role, it can unintentionally signal uncertainty, even when their decisions are sound. So I've seen this pattern show up when leaders step into roles that are structured differently than before, and the team is still holding on to an older version of how decisions used to be made. So they start testing that boundary, questioning your decisions, revisiting conversations that have already happened, and pulling discussions into smaller groups outside of the leadership conversations. And over time, this creates that higher sense of noise and less clarity. Those side conversations can feel like safety to your team, but they often create the opposite. If this is your situation, if you're feeling like you've lost your leadership mojo, in a sense, here's 3 practical things you can do. Number 1 is define decision ownership clearly. Right now, Joe's team is operating as if all decisions are shared, and that needs to change. You need to start naming what decisions you own, where input is welcome, and when a decision is final. Not everything is a group decision. And if you want to learn more about a decision-making model that works, it's called RACI. And I describe it more in an episode 12. So you can find that episode. I would encourage you to go back to that one at culturecares.com/12. It's called What Actually Speeds Up Decisions in Nonprofit Teams. You're defining decision ownership more clearly using the RACI model. Number 2, Stop re-explaining your decisions. If you've already communicated your role and responsibilities clearly, repeating it over and over doesn't always create alignment. It can actually create more room for debate. So instead, lead with consistency. You can say something like, here's the decision we're moving forward and here's why, and then move forward. You can tell your team that you will reevaluate in 3 months. So for example, if you're trying to improve a process, and then make the decision that this is the new process going forward, everybody's, and then we will reevaluate. Otherwise, people are going to come back to you next week and say, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. But the real point is to get that shared agreement when you have that new process improvement that you're making, and you're going to see it through and collect feedback over the next few months and then reevaluate. And then the third is to address side conversations early. This is what was happening with Joe. He was noticing that side conversations were happening after the meeting and decisions were being relitigated outside of where he could hear it, so he felt out of the loop. And so those meetings after the meeting are not neutral. They're not healthy either. They create confusion, they open the door to misinterpretation, and they weaken team alignment, and you can share that with your team. You don't have to control every conversation, but you do need to set a clear expectation. You can say something like, if it impacts the team or our direction, it needs to be discussed in the room where decisions are made. That's really what's fair. So before you go today, I want to give you a clear spark plug shift for the week. Look at one decision your team is currently circling on, and then ask yourself, who owns this decision? Have I clearly communicated that? And am I holding that boundary consistently? Because leadership isn't about getting everyone to agree, as we discussed in the last episode. It's about creating enough clarity that your team can move forward with confidence. If you're navigating something like this in your organization and you want support creating clarity, strengthening your leadership presence, and in getting your team aligned, head to culturecares.com and apply for my 90-minute strategy session. That was a mouthful, strategy session. And I would love to talk with you about your unique challenges and help you move forward in a way that resonates. If this episode did help you, please share it with another nonprofit leader. I would really appreciate that. And make sure you're subscribed. Until next time, remember, you are meant for great things and you don't have to burn out to prove it. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Nonprofit CEO Spark. If you're ready to turn burnout into boundaries and build a healthy, happy culture where everyone, including you, can thrive, visit culturecares.com to learn how I support nonprofit organizations like yours. If this episode brought you value, share it with a fellow leader navigating stress and overwhelm. And remember, you are meant for great things and you don't have to burn out to prove it. Until next time, keep leading with courage and confidence.